بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We began yesterday reading the first principle of the outer actions, which is really the salah. And I did mention before that we are done with the 10 principles that Imam Al-Ghazali chose from theology, Islamic theology, Islamic aqidah, Islamic faith. And we read something from the salah, from prayer. First of all, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ وَأَقِيمُ الصَّلَاةَ. Imam Ghazali paid attention to the fact that it is establishing the prayer rather than salli, pray. And this means that it's not only the salah, it's a package really. Whether it's the purification of the, of course, purification, it's a prerequisite. But in terms of fiqh, if we borrow from Imam Al-Ghazali's discussion of the real meaning of fiqh, the fuqaha, indeed, they will pay attention to the outer action. If you purify your body, if you do the ablution or the ghusl in a relatively speaking complete fashion, then they will judge that your purification is okay. But there is another level of fiqh whereby it's ultimately about the heart, and we will read something about the heart. If the outer action does not influence the heart, then definitely one should prioritize cleansing the heart. And it is understood that establishing the prayer is establishing the religion. At any rate, we reach the following paragraph that we did not read. So we start from here. Just as remnants of the heart's realizations descend to the limbs, likewise lights from the state of the limbs could rise to the heart. The heart, knowledge from the heart descends, reaches really the influences the limbs. In fact, the limbs are nothing but they are at the service of the heart. If the heart commands the limbs to prostrate, then they will. If the heart commands the limbs to disobey, then they will. So it's ultimately not the limb itself. The hand does not hurt people on its own. It does not have a will of its own. It goes back to a command that comes from the heart. You might as well say that it is really the neurologically something that is still I'm fascinated by. In fact, even scholars would be fascinated by how do we compute things, how do we give orders so that the limbs would behave one way or the other. And it should be the other way around, that the behavior of the limbs ultimately will influence the heart. Good behavior, submitting to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enlighten the hearts. We talk about lights that reach the heart. For this reason, the prayer was commanded, despite its being only physical motions of the sensory world. They are observable. Let's put it this way, so that you can look at someone praying and you would know that these acts are acts of someone who prays. Thus, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarded as being of and from the material world, and said, three things from your world have been made beloved to me. Okay. These three things, he does mention حبب إلي من دنياكم ثلاث, and al-hadith. Now this tradition would include women, perfume, and prayer. Two issues with this hadith. The first one, we need to exclude three things, though there are three things in the hadith. Prayer is not of this dunya per se, because Imam Al-Ghazali said that it is from this dunya. في الدنيا ومن الدنيا, the relationship on one level, it is from dunya. Perfume in itself is really something. This is from this dunya. If we talk about a relationship, an intimate relationship with one's spouse, it is from this dunya, though one would basically get divine reward, as the Prophet ﷺ explained elsewhere, and the companions were radiallahu anhum, they were surprised really by the fact that they'll be rewarded for an intimate relationship, and the Prophet ﷺ explained that had they done the same thing in a non-halal way, in haram and adultery, and there will be punishment. So it's only fair that if there is punishment for the haram, then there should be reward for the halal. So the scholars said that because salah is not from this dunya, that's basically what scholars said, then there's a problem with the saying that حُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ دِنْيَاكُمْ ثَلَاث, because the salah is not from this dunya. At any rate, the chain of narrator has been for many Muslim scholars, scholars of hadith, found problem with the chain of narrators. They said that only Thabit, Thabit by way of Anas, but from Thabit to Salam Abu al-Mundhir, and they differed about this Salam. Abu Dawud considered him strong. Ibn Ma'in basically considered him weak. But I found comfort. There's a long discussion. I found comfort that Imam Al-Haddad in Takhrij the Hadith Ihya Ulum really, he said that Al-Iraqi said رواه النسائي ومسلم والحاكم من حديث أنس بإسناد جيد. So I just simply, and it is something that is really known. It's the exact wording that is problematic. Others basically who rendered it strong, including Dhahabi in the Mizan, and that should suffice it really. Okay, so we just ignore the three things from your world, but the other parts are indeed they are correct, if you will. So loving loving woman, perfume, but the Prophet ﷺ found comfort, really, as we say, some fulfilling in the spiritual sense. He found that in prayer, in salah. Then he continues by saying, nor is it far-fetched that an effect of outer purity should spread to the inner self, for there are matters concerning the wonders of Allah's work that are more amazing than that. For instance, it is known through experience that while making love, if a person were to stare at something bright white or blood red until that image overcame his conscious, the child's complexion would incline to that color which the conscious was overcome with. So it's a nice prelude to genetic engineering, but it's not really correct. Uh, such ideas, in popular cultural expressions. Um, the generation of my own mother believed certain things about, pretty close to what is being mentioned here, but that's not, it does not really hold water uh, at any rate. Similarly, the first time a fetus moves in the belly, its form inclines to beauty if its mother was beholding a beautiful image in that state to the extent that the image overcame her conscious. Uh, Again, that doesn't work. That's not the way things are. Subhanallah. Uh, Subhanallah. You know, you never know. You never know. But it's not up to us really. Sometimes the parents are very, talk about a handsome husband, a beautiful wife, and doesn't mean that the kids will follow 100%, you know. But definitely not holding a beautiful object or thinking of beautiful object, etc. It has nothing to do with that. For this reason, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded that while making love, a person should have a righteous child present in his heart and pray to Allah for that, saying, "O Allah, keep Satan away from us and away from what you provide us with." Okay, I think I should read the Arabic and read the English again. ولذلك أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المباشرة عند مباشرته أن يحضر في قلبه إرادة صلاح المولود ويدعو الله بذلك فيقول اللهم جنبنا الشيطان وجنب الشيطان ما رزقتنا. It's really of course in the Quran, Mary's mother really, she prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect her and to protect her offspring from the accursed Satan. But let me read it again then after I have read the Arabic. أن يحضر في قلبه إرادة صلاح المولود. For this reason, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded that while making love, parents should have a righteous child present in his heart. A righteous child present? No. To have the will, simply to have the إرادة صلاح المولود, and to have that as to be present in his heart. That simply a prayer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the child will be protected against Satan, really. Nothing else. Oh Allah, keep Satan away from us and away from what you provide us with. This is so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spreads the beginnings of righteousness over the spirit that He creates when the seed is planted in the place of harvest through the medium of predominant righteousness in the heart of the tiller. حتى يفيض الله سبحانه وتعالى مبادئ الصلاح على الروح التي يخلقها عند إلقاء البذر في محل الحرث بواسطة الصلاح الغالب على قلب الحارث. Okay. So when the seed is planted, we talk about really um, you know very well that the fertilization take place in the fallopian tube, and then it moves towards the the wall of the uterus when it's ready really for and will be the zygote will be stuck on the wall of uterus and will start splitting and growing. But so it's the prayer here is basically so that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the ruh, we talk about a good child. You pray for a good child. That's what it is. This is similar to the how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reflect light with a mirror that is facing the sun. This reflection will enlighten other bodies that are close to the mirror. In the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spreads light through the medium of a mirror facing the sun to the objects facing the mirror. Okay, no problem with that. Now we are knocking on a great door that leads to knowing the wonders of Allah's work in His dominion and in the spiritual realm. Closely related to this is the secret of intercession, the shafa'ah, in the hereafter. However, we will pass over it. وهذا الآن يقرع بابا عظيما معرفة عجائب صنع الله تعالى في الملك والملكوت، وإلى قريب منه يرجع سر الشفاعة في الآخرة، فلنتجاوزه. فغرضنا الآن ذكر الأعمال دون المعارف. Our objective now is to mention practice sound realization. So far, we have given you a slight whiff of the aroma of the secrets of outer purification. If after purification and performing ablution well, you do not gain something of the clarity that we describe, then know that the filth to which your heart has been exposed as a result of the drudgery of worldly desire and its distractions has led inevitably to exhaustion of the heart's perceptive faculties. Kalal, ta'ab. These faculties are tired because of the inappropriate things that pass by, which is really an amazing idea, really, if one thinks about it. Why people are tired, why people are depressed, why people are all these internal negative energies, and it's because of the people being exposed to the negative impact of sin, consumerism, nihilism, if you will. They are all related, but this is not the time to expand on the topic, and I'm sure that I have already spoken about this. It's tiring. The material aspect is tiring. Mind you, if one really combines consumption, with the consumerism, but still with money that is gained in haram, to please someone in a relationship that is haram. So, triple the effect, if you will. Consequently, it has become unable to sense subtle, delicate things and nothing remains of its strength except the perception of the obvious, if even that. Therefore, devote yourself to polishing and clearing up your heart, for that is more pressing upon you than anything else you are engaged with. Clearing up your heart. That's almost like a call to maintenance, which is really not a bad idea to think about. Maintenance. Okay. The second matter is to be vigilant about the prayer's recommended acts, outer practices, remembrances, and glorifications. You should perform it with all the recommended acts, etiquettes, and positions, as we have compiled in the book The Beginning of Guidance, Bidayat al-Hidayah. Truly, every one of them contains a secret and has an effect on the heart, in the same manner that we brought to attention regarding the effect of purification. In fact, it is even more potent and far reaching, but explaining all that would take too long. If you do all of the aforementioned, you will benefit from it even if you do not know its secrets, just as a person who consumes medicine benefits from doing so even if he does not know the nature of its components or the ways in which it is compatible with his illness. Probably the same thing when we talk about all these supplements that people talk about. Not people who talk about nutritionists or people from the medical world. If it does benefit you, doesn't mean that you know how it works. That's the. In summary, know that the prayer has a form made by the Lord of Lords, just as He formed animals, for example. Its spirit is intention, sincerity, and presence of heart. Its body is action. Its organs are the pillars, and its limbs are the emphatically recommended acts. Sincerity and intention in its function like the spirit. Sincerity and intention in it function like the spirit. In fact, this is not only about the salah, the prayer is about every single act. We need the right intention, we need the sincerity, النية والإخلاص. Standing and sitting function like the body, bowing and prostrating function like the head, arm and leg, and perfecting the bow and prostration with repose and good form function like good limbs with a nice shape and tone. The remembrances and glorifications contained in it function like the keen senses contained in the head and limbs, such as the eye, the ear, and others. Knowledge of the meanings of the remembrances and presence of heart when reciting them function like the strength of a keen sense, such as strong hearing, strong vision, and strong senses of smell and taste, each one with a particular value. Know that your drawing close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with your prayer is like the manner in which some servants of a sultan draw close to him by presenting him with a young maid servant. واعلم أن تقربك بالصلاة كتقرب بعض خدم السلطان بإهداء وصيفة إلى السلطان. Now, the absence of intention and sincerity in the prayer is like the absence of the young maidservant's spirit. Someone who presents the sultan with a dead corpse is mocking him and thus deserves to have his blood spilt. The absence of bowing and prostrating is like the absence of limbs. So, as if basically this young woman does not have an eye or both eyes, or cut off ears or nose. Again, it's what a gift, if this is really. And of course, we talk about this and within its own historical context. It's not something that we advocate today. It's simply an image to show how the prayer should not be devoid of all the necessary integral parts. Otherwise, it'll be extremely problematic if one presents a prayer almost like the image was like a dead corpse. They do have not exactly the same example, but just to shift the example somewhere else. When people shake hands, there are different handshakes. Okay, one of them they call it the dead fish. You just extend the hand, and there is no life at all in that handshake. They call it dead fish, as if you are handing somebody literally a dead fish. No warmth, no warmth. As if one does not care that much, or this is really if it does reflect an internal state, it's extremely problematic. You don't present the sultan, with a maiden that suffers from that lacks, one thing or the other. No eyes, or her nose was hacked, or the ears were cut off. The heart's lack of presence and its heedlessness to knowing the meaning of the citation and remembrance is like the absence of hearing and sight. Though the eye and ear remain intact, if someone presents a young maidservant to the Sultan in such a state, you are well aware of the predicament in which he will find himself. Know also that if a jurist, a faqih, says that a prayer is deficient in its emphatically recommended and recommended acts is in fact valid, that is like a physician saying about the mutilated young maidservant that she is still alive and not dead, with all the missing parts and functions. If that were enough to get close to the Sultan and attain some generosity from him, then you would know that the deficient prayer is suitable to drawing close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and attaining some generosity from him. However, if such an offering is more likely to be thrown back at the giver and result in him being disciplined, then the equivalent regarding the deficient prayer is not far-fetched. For indeed, it may be thrown back like a tattered rag at the one who prays, as he being related to, as has been related in the hadith. Finally, it will be thrown, tossed in his face, her face. Finally, know that the foundation of prayer is veneration and respect, and to omit the prayer's etiquettes is to nullify veneration and respect. The third matter is to be vigilant regarding the spirit of the prayer, which means having sincerity, presence of the heart throughout its entirety, and for the heart to take on the qualities of the prayer's inner meanings during the act. Therefore, do not prostrate or bow except that your heart is submissive and humble, in agreement with your outer condition. For verily the intent of prayer is humility of the heart, not humility of the body. Do not say Allahu Akbar, God is great. And I think one should speak about the exact meaning in English. While there is anything in your heart greater than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. So God is great. literally, Allahu Akbar, God is greater than, okay? In English, you would not say that. That's the literal meaning. In English, you cannot simply say that and stop. God is greater than. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar min Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. God is greater than your job. God is greater than your business. God is greater definitely than Netflix. I'm just simply saying God is greater than walking in, aimlessly in a massive mall, which does not really bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. God is greater than anything that basically that you have, unless of course it's God's greater than everything. But sometimes if it's the call for prayer, one should basically think about his or her response to the call. At any rate, God is greater than, but of course in English doesn't work like this. Do not say وجهت وجهي, I turn my face, وجهت وجهي للذي فطر السماوات والأرض, except that all of your heart is directed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and has turned away from everything other than Him. Do not say Alhamdulillah, all praise is for Allah, thanking Him, except that your heart is overflowing with gratitude to Him, rejoicing in Him and smiling. Do not say وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, and from you alone we seek help, except that you can feel your weakness and inability, and that neither you nor anyone else determines the outcome of your affairs. Literally, Tawheed, as Imam Al-Ghazali says, to see everything coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This goes for all the rest of the remembrances and actions of the prayer. However, explaining all that would be too long, and I have already explained it in the revival of the religious sciences on Ihya Ulum. Persevere with yourself in returning your heart to the prayer until you are not heedless from its first part to its last. For indeed, a man is only recorded as having performed that part of his prayer which he is conscious of. This is why, when people pray, they will not gain except like half of it, 1/3 of it, 1/4, because their mind will be absent. The heart is absent. The heart is in the market. The heart is, it could be food, it could be whatever is the case. It could be something else, but not in the prayer. If presence of mind is difficult for you, and I do not see you as being any other way, then bear in mind the following. If the heedlessness persists for the duration of 2 units of prayer, we talk about full 2 rak'ahs, then do not repeat it. However, understand that supererogatory prayers, nawafil, meant the obligatory ones, the fara'id. Therefore, pray voluntarily to the extent that your heart is present for the length of 2 units. Whenever heedlessness increase your supererogatory prayers until your heart is present. For example, pray 10 units to avoid heedlessness for the duration of 4, which is the length of the obligatory prayer. It is from Allah's mercy upon you that He accepts your mending of the required prayers through the supererogatory. These are the principles of being vigilant about the prayer. Obviously, Imam Al-Ghazali is saying that if one's heart is absent, then the nawafil, the supererogatory acts and prayers in this case, will mend, will fix, will compensate for that which was missed from the original obligatory prayer. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to be present during our prayers and to accept our prayers and all our deeds, good deeds, inshallah, to forgive us our shortcomings. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll read about zakah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.